Okay, to discuss all of these latest developments, which are happening quite quickly at the moment, Chris Doyle is in London. He's a commentator on Middle East affairs and the director of the Council for Arab-British Understanding. Also here in studio is Sultan Barakat, professor of public policy at Hamad bin Khalifa University here in Qatar. Thank you all very much for being with us. So, Sultan, let me start with you. Let me start with this GCC press conference that we were just listening into. A lot of it is things we've been hearing for the past month. But there was some other specifics in there, chief among them, this concern over the Strait of Hormuz that the Gulf countries have. And also, as Zain pointed out, that they did not mention Israel. What do you make of those 2 points?
Well, we've been hearing a lot of this, but we haven't heard it from the Council as a united bloc. And I think this is the first time the Secretary General comes out and speaks on behalf of everyone. And that's partly because Iran has been attacking different countries in slightly different ways, depending on their own calculation of the risk and the way their land has been used by the Americans or not, and so on. But to have the GCC speaking in one voice, I think it's important. It also shows that they have reached the conclusion that their defense is really in being united. And this, I think, will be reflected into the way they move into the future. I thought it was very interesting reminding the Iranians of how, particularly since 2016, the needle has shifted within the Gulf states. Before that, they were pretty confrontational with the Iranians to do with the Arab Spring and the support that was going on in Syria in particular and in Yemen and so on. But since 2016, they've made a genuine effort to restore those relationships. And he sees it as a reason why Iranians should consider carefully their operation towards the region. I agree that it was a bit odd that you hide behind and you want to use the international law as your main source of argument against why Iran should not target you as sovereign states, that you don't start by condemning the origin of all this, the American-Israeli attack against Iran, which a lot of nations have already said it's illegal. The United Nations General Secretary has come out and said this is illegal, should not have happened. Although he did refer to the denunciation of the June attack by Israel. I think maybe the fact that the United States is part of this one, maybe the Gulf states find it a little bit more difficult to condemn openly this kind of operation.
For them.
Yes, of course, because of the complex relationship between them and the United States. I think also the reference to the occupied islands is very interesting because the Iranians are now claiming sovereignty over the Hormuz Strait.
Right.
But the fact that those islands are contested between them and the United Arab Emirates, that sovereignty is not 100% clear at the moment. So referring to those I thought was interesting. But most importantly, the fact that he reassured that the posture will remain one of defense, but at the same time, we still have all the options on the table.
Right. And they reserve the right, as they say, to defend themselves as they see fit. Let's bring Rasul Sardar in now, who is in Riyadh, who was at the press conference and listening into it. Rasul, what did you make of this? Do you agree with Sultan here that this is what the GCC needs to do, is stand together as one bloc? Is that what they're trying to present there?
Indeed, that was the main criticism toward GCC. So since decades, one of the richest places in the world have been outsourcing its security to the United States and relying on the United States security umbrellas. But it's so fragile, and during each of the war, the region itself is becoming the first victim. And here, what we have seen indeed, that the Secretary General of the GCC first going through the damages that has been inflicted on GCC, talking about the residential areas, killing of the citizens and the residents, the airports, the aviation industry, the embassies, the infrastructures that have been targeted, and simply saying that since the beginning of the war more than 5,000 projectiles, missiles, drones, and other projectiles have been fired at the GCC countries. So, and also he just mentioned how GCC stability is important not only for the region but for the globe. So daily 60 million barrels of oil being exported to the world, which is constituting 60 or more than 30% of the global energy, and targeting these countries, how much it's going to affect the global economy. So it was a message to the international community. But here, he's saying that Iran is not only targeting the Strait of Hormuz, but directly or indirectly through its proxies is actually attacking the Red Sea and also the Horn of Africa. And that is not only affecting, reducing the flow of the energy, but also the flow of essentials, food and other essentials as well. So one of the things here is that he said that the GCC remained neutral. And that has been clearly communicated with Iranians. And then he has come up with a list of the goodwill of the GCC since 2016, the things that the GCC country has done to improve relations with Iran. Reference in 2016, 2023, Saudi Arabia, Iran deal that was signed in Beijing, and then 2024, the ministerial meetings between the GCC countries and Iran to improve the relations. And he said, we were candid. However, in the first place, when the war started, Iran targeted us. So here, a clear reference, we are hearing that almost on a daily basis, a clear reference to Article 51 of the United Nations, which is about the self-defense, right of self-defense of countries. When you come under attack, so you have the right to retaliate. And he's mentioning that individually or collectively, we're still preserving that right. And he has not materialized, he didn't give any details. He said that this aggression must stop, but we are now examining the options. So whether these are the diplomatic options, whether these are the military options, he has not clarified about it. But another thing is that, so despite not clearly naming Israel at the end of his speech, he simply said that the GCC's role in the regional order remains the same. And we state clearly that any attempt to change the map of the Middle East are categorically rejected.
Right.
Just we have heard again and again from Israelis about the Greater Israel and so on. So we see that GCC is saying that it is against any attempt to change the regional order and to change the map of the region. That is also clearly emphasized by the GCC Secretary General Jassim Mohammed Al-Budaibi.
Right. Rasul Serdar live for us in Riyadh. Rasul, thank you. Before we carry on, I just want to bring you the news that President Trump has posted on his Truth Social, saying the Iranian negotiators are very different and strange. He said they're begging us to make a deal, which they should be doing since they have been militarily obliterated with zero chance of a comeback, and yet they publicly state that they are only looking at our proposal. Wrong. They better get serious soon before it's too late, because once that happens, there is no turning back, and it won't be pretty. Okay, let's go back to our guest now. Chris Doyle, let's go to you in London for your reaction to this. It's very difficult to understand where these negotiations or where this diplomacy may be at. How do you read into it, and how do you think we should be following this?
It is almost as if you actually have to look at this psychologically, the psychology of all the leaderships in all of this.
Right.
So you've got an Iranian leadership that is essentially bunkering down, is denying that it's involved in any serious negotiations. It's not going to give up. It is determined to see this through. It wants a permanent end to the war. And you can see in the way that it's attacked so many other states and so many other targets that it believes that it can stand out. And then you have President Trump, who's given all these various statements. At one moment, he's in talks, and another moment, he's promising to hit Iran harder than ever. Every day, he promises to hit Iran harder than ever. And is he escalating or de-escalating? So the psychology of Trump, of course, will probably trigger huge PhD theses for years. And then the Israeli leadership. Now, what is Israel's agenda in all of this? Is it now a little bit panicking because there might be a deal in the offing, that there could be a ceasefire? That's not something that Netanyahu will want. He will want to be really bashing the Iranian military capabilities right up to the last minute to reduce their ability in the future to be a threat. And then, of course, you have the Gulf states. And in contrast to what you've just read out, that post on Truth Social from President Trump, where he says that Iran is militarily defeated and obliterated, the harsh reality is that those GCC states are saying, far from that, we've been hit by 5,000 missile strikes and drone strikes. This is a very real threat. This is a real damage done, including to civilian targets. And an appeal to the world, a warning to the world. What are you going to do about this? Because your interests are at stake. And are those other states stepping up in the collective self-defense of their interests, but also those Gulf states? And I think they are frustrated. They're angry that not enough has been done to stop these attacks.
And at this point, it doesn't appear that there's any end in sight. Sultan, I'll ask you, because if we are going back to the negotiating table, surely the President of the United States and also the leadership in Iran are aware that this is going to be a very different negotiation than it was going to be 4 weeks ago before this started. But do they?
Of course, they are aware, and I think the President ought to be aware and display less of a naive sort of attitude in these messages, because he's been negotiating with Iran for a long, long time. The United States has been in negotiations with Iran, for almost a decade now. And even in the days when they were in direct negotiations, face-to-face, across the table, they lacked trust. And the recent episodes back in June last year and then earlier this year and so on would have eroded whatever trust remained between the two parties. So to approach it by saying, well, we send a message of 15 points and they haven't responded, they're just reading it, it's ridiculous, to be honest. And it's not serious, and it does show, it goes back to what we were saying earlier a few days ago, is this postponement is just tactical, that he's not ready. He's trying to build up the momentum and the opinion around the world that he's done his best, tried to make peace as much as possible, but these people are so ignorant, they don't even understand his sophisticated approach to peacemaking.
Right.
And therefore, he's justified to hit them yet again. I suspect that hit is coming. I think the reference made in the GCC meeting towards the change of the map of the Middle East is a real threat. Now they understand very well the position Israel is taking. The link between what Israel is doing in Lebanon and Iran is very, very important. And as Chris was saying earlier, the real key is not in the hands of Trump, unfortunately. It's in the hands of the Israelis, despite how much the Iranians are trying to put pressure on Trump by affecting the global economy and so on. The final answer will come from Netanyahu.
Sultan Barakat here with me and Chris Doyle in London. Thank you both so much for being with us.